Hi, this is Catherine at Veterinary Solutions. This is going to be a short summary video on image optimisation. It's one of the most frequently asked questions of us. How do I optimise my image on whichever ultrasound machine you have? And it's one of the most difficult to answer because by adjusting one control you're always going to have a knock-on effect somewhere else. So it's really important that you understand all of your controls and what they do. I'm going to skip over the most basic controls such as gain and go straight to the less well understood controls such as persistence, dynamic range, setting your focal points, adequately adjusting your depth, and a quick look back over frequency and the importance of this. I hope that this video will be of some use. There are also a lot of articles on our website, vetImageSolutions.co.uk. If you go to the blog section, there's a lot of detailed written information on there where you can learn a lot more. I'm going to start with a control that you're all familiar with, which is ultrasound frequency. As you know, if you want penetration, you're going to want a lower frequency, and if you want higher resolution, you will want a higher frequency. So there's always going to be a trade-off between penetration and your image resolution. So we've got a range of machines here. It's a TH80, that's 3.5 to 6.5 megahertz, so you've got that range to adjust through. On the Sonoscape A5 it's 4 to 9 megahertz. The MSU is a bit of a special case, you've just got 2.5 or 3.5, only those two options. And on the scan pad, again a little bit different. It's set up a bit more like a higher end hospital grade machine where you've got the options of penetration, general and resolution. So as you can imagine, the penetration would be your lower frequency, resolution would be higher. You do also have tissue harmonics on the scan pad, probably a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but put simply, you're sending at one frequency, which is the fundamental frequency, and you are receiving back at a higher frequency. That's due to the way that sound travels through tissue in a non-linear fashion. So what your machine is effectively doing is it's sending out at say 3 megahertz, but when it's receiving its echoes back, it's ignoring the 3 megahertz and it's only taking the 6 megahertz to generate your image. So you're getting the benefits of the penetration from your lower frequency, but you are also reaping the benefits of a higher image quality from your higher frequency. So that's the benefit of tissue harmonic imaging, particularly useful if you had perhaps a very large dog and there was just a lot of noise in your image and you couldn't really discern what you were looking at. If you turn on your tissue harmonics, that may help with that. One of the most important controls when it comes to image resolution is the setting of your focal point. If you look at this point here, which I hope you can see it's relatively fine, if I bring my focal point away from that area, you can see how it spreads out, how we completely lose our lateral resolution in this area. So here, nice and fine, moving away, it's spread out. So it's really important that you have your focal zone at your region of interest. It's also worth remembering that the beam will diverge more rapidly after your focal point. So if you've got your focal point just stuck at the very top of your screen and the puppies you're looking at are somewhere down here, you're really doing yourself a disservice because you're not going to be getting good lateral resolution in that area at all. You can set multiple focal points on all of our machines. With the TH80 it's just a click of a button. It's worth remembering, however, that this will significantly slow your frame rate, so I wouldn't recommend doing this. It's very common, particularly when people first begin, to have your puppies all at the top of your image and a lot of wasted space down below. Most of the time we're not interested in what's going on 10 or 15 centimetres into the animal, so whilst you may want to start with your depth further out, once you've found your region of interest, it's important that you reduce your depth and have that area filling most of your screen. You have to remember that your machine is sending out pulses of ultrasound and it's having to wait for that pulse to return before it can emit another one. So you're really slowing down your frame rate unnecessarily if you're making your scanner wait for 10 or 15 centimeters of echoes to return before it can send out its next set of pulses. So what you want to do is bring your depth much shallower once you've found the puppies that you're looking for. Most of the time they will be right at the top of your image, and don't have an image like this where your region of interest is all at the top and there's just nothing going on down below. Also related to frame rate is persistence, or the degree of frame averaging. Having a high persistence can give you a nice smooth image, but it can sometimes mean that your image feels very delayed. So if I move my probe rapidly here to simulate a panting dog or a fast moving area such as a fetal heartbeat, you can see it feels quite delayed, it's quite sort of blurry. If I then bring my persistence down, you can see it now becomes a lot more responsive to my movements, it's keeping up to date. So it's important that you do adjust this when you do encounter a time when you feel that your image is very laggy or delayed. A common image quality issue is that the image can often look rather milky, and that is down to the dynamic range setting of your system. Another word that some manufacturers use for dynamic range is compression, and that can help to explain it a little bit better. Your system effectively has a wide range of shades of grey, and by having a high dynamic range you are showing every single one of those shades, whereas if you compress the image or if you decrease your dynamic range, you are going to have a higher contrast in your image because you're showing less shades of grey. So if I just demonstrate that to you here, you can see this image is looking pretty milky, quite washed out. If I decrease the dynamic range on the A5 here, I hope you can see that you now have a lot more contrast in your image. So I find that helps if you're doing an initial search for gestation sacs. To have a slightly lower dynamic range can often help because you can really help your eyes to pick out those shapes. Once you've found your region of interest, you can always increase your dynamic range so that you can see a lot more detail in the tissues. Your eyes can pick up some things in colour better than they can in black and white, and it's for this reason that some people like to use the pseudo colour option, which is available on all of your ultrasound systems. On the MSU, you simply navigate down to colour, and with the left and right arrows you can give your image a colour wash, which, as I say, can help you to pick out some things a little bit easier than just a plain black and white image.